Hey guys, welcome back. It is Alyssa Lebrecq, nutritionist and your gut expert. And tonight we're going to talk about SIBO. Man, everyone needs to know about SIBO. If you don't know what SIBO is, please watch this. Watch this tonight because I've got some really important information you need to know about. And if you're struggling with gut issues, if you've got like the gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, if you feel like you have tried everything and nothing is working, first of all, there's still some piece missing. Otherwise, it would have worked. Okay, so don't give up. It means you're missing a critical piece of the puzzle. And it's possible that SIBO is that really big piece for you. So tonight we're going to talk about how the heck do you know if you've got SIBO? And I am going to touch on what the heck is SIBO. So first of all, SIBO stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. All right, what the hell is that? Well, first of all, let's just backtrack for a second because I want to talk about there can be damage and deficiencies that lead to this sort of condition. Okay, so next week we're going to be talking even more in depth on that. We're going to be talking about what causes your SIBO next week on our Thursday night Facebook Live, so do come back and watch that. But I want to just really stress that there is some sort of damage and deficiency that's been happening in your gut that has led to SIBO. The most common thing that causes this, though, is when your motility is off. It's damaged, it's not working properly. What the heck is motility, Alyssa? Well, if you've got diarrhea or constipation, your motility is off, my friend. Okay, so it's how fast and slow your colon is contracting. So how SIBO really comes to start to take over is when our motility is not working properly, bacteria can get trapped in the small intestine and they start to overpopulate. And when they overpopulate, that's what we call small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO. Okay, so that's essentially what it is. It's a bacterial overgrowth that's happening in your small intestine. But this condition is very, very different than just your typical gas, bloating, diarrhea, and constipation. And so tonight I want to talk through some of the specific symptoms that I want you to be laser focused on, like really be mindful and be tuning in. Is this happening for me? The reason that this is so important, guys, is because what we're seeing through studies now is that up to 80% of people who have IBS actually have SIBO. That's freaking huge. That's not like, well, you may have a bit of SIBO going on. No, that is the majority of people that come into our Love and Trust Your Guts program think they have IBS and they actually have SIBO. And so we have to end up putting them through a responsive removal plan. And it's the reason why everything they've tried hasn't worked. All right, so let's talk about some of the symptoms. So first and foremost, a lot of the symptoms are common to IBS, and that's why a lot of doctors are chalking it up as IBS, but not realizing there's something much more serious going on. So constipation and diarrhea are definitely symptoms of SIBO. But here's the differentiating factor. So if you feel like, again, you've tried everything when it comes to your diarrhea or constipation or fluctuating between the two, and your bowels are just not responding, and you've even whipped out like the high dose laxatives, your or Imodium, antidiarrheals, whatever it is, your doctors have you on medications, on top of medications, on top of medications to try to figure out how to get your bowels moving or how to get them to stop moving. This is a sign we need to start looking at SIBO. SIBO might potentially be present. All right, and the reason is because you can take all of these bowel aids, but if the bacteria are still there overgrowing and messing things up, then nothing is going to work until you tackle the bacteria. Make sense? So constipation, diarrhea are fluctuating between the two, but especially when nothing seems to be working or your bowels just don't seem to be responding. All right, let's talk about the next one, bloating. Now, there's bloating and then there is like bloating. Now, Bloating is one of those symptoms that there's a real wide range. But when we're talking about SIBO bloat, we're talking about the type of bloating that makes you grow a couple sizes in clothing in a day, right? You wake up in the morning, your belly is flat, but progressively as you get through going through the day, by the end of the day, your stomach is not the same size it was in the morning. We'll put it that way, right? So you are bloating more and more through the day, and it's happening all day long. It's not just happening after meals. And especially if you are getting a bloat that makes you look like you could pass for pregnant. All right. We had a client that came into our program. Her name was Carolyn, and she looked like she was 7 months pregnant. And she'd go out in public, and people were like, "Oh, what do you do?" And she was like, "Alyssa, I'm 58 years old. It's not even possible for me to be pregnant. But I guess I'll take the compliment that people think I'm young enough to be pregnant." So her doctor, she went to the doctor. Her doctor told her that she needed to invest in a really good plastic surgeon to fix her belly fat. What? Insane recommendation. We got her tested. It turns out that she had SIBO. And my gosh, we put her through a responsive removal plan. It took 6 months, but we got her flat belly back. Now, her poops improved too, she lost weight, her body pains went away, all the other things that came with that. But the bloating, guys, when we're talking about SIBO bloat, it's not just a heavy feeling in your tummy, and it's usually not something that happens just after meals, okay? Now, to be clear though, not everyone that has SIBO gets bloated. I find especially in cases of diarrhea, it's a little bit less common, but again, guys, it's still possible. So I don't want you to rule yourself out because you don't get this pregnant bloat. I don't want you to think then you don't have SIBO. It's just, if you for sure have that, then wow, we need to look at SIBO. Make sense? All right, guys, let's keep going. Abdominal pain. So any sort of discomfort, pain, like twisting gut sort of sensation, anything like that going on, let's talk SIBO. But even more than that, gas. All right, now I'm talking about trapped gas. Do you ever feel like you've got like this gas bubble in your stomach that just will not go, and you can even like hear sloshing happening in your stomach, right? And this trapped gas is really tough to actually pass. Now, for some people with SIBO, they can pass it, but it's difficult. And when they do, it stinks. It's like really foul. So if you're getting gas or trapped gas especially, check out SIBO. The other thing though that's interesting about gas is it can go at the back end, but it can also come out the top end too. So if you're belching a lot, another sign that SIBO might be present, and especially if those belches are stinky too. All right. So what am I missing here? We got abdominal pain, gas, trapped gas, foul smelling, all the stuff, belching. The one thing that I especially want to touch on too, though, in severe cases of SIBO, then you need to be mindful of your weight. So when we have severe weight loss happening, I was chatting with a gal yesterday. She was like, "Alyssa, I was only 120 pounds to begin with, and I've lost 18 pounds, and I don't have any more weight to lose." So in cases like that where you're having a really hard time keeping on weight and you're having blood work done and you're showing a whole bunch of deficiencies like iron, especially B12 and even vitamin D, these are signs that there's some sort of bacteria that is sucking the dear life out of you. All right, so please do look into SIBO. Now, this is in severe cases, guys. So if you are being really hard on yourself and you're thinking, well, I've got lots of weight to lose, or that's not me, I don't want you to think that, again, that you don't have SIBO. Someone with SIBO can have some of these symptoms, all of these symptoms, several of the symptoms. So don't write yourself off here. Again, 80% of people who have IBS actually have SIBO. So there's a good chance that it might be happening. Now, I want to answer the main question, the big question. How do I really know for sure, like for sure that I've got SIBO, right? Because, guys, I want you to please promise me one thing. Promise me promise me you are not going to take your hard-earned money and go to some random supplement store, buy some random supplements, and throw that shit to the wall and hope it sticks. Okay? If you do in fact have SIBO, you are wasting your money. You're wasting your money. And I don't want you to make any more of those mistakes, because what happens when we try so many things and it feels like nothing is working is it sucks, first of all, sucks the life out of you, but it also takes away any sort of hope or faith that it's possible for you to feel normal again. And you start to get this dialogue in your head that maybe it's not even possible for me. Maybe I just need to settle. Maybe I need to just suck it up, and maybe this is what the rest of my life is going to look like. And you start to adopt this really, really painful existence as your new normal. Please don't guess anymore, because it's costing you more than your supplements. It's costing you your mental health. Right? And so the number one thing that you need to please invest in, please do to make sure that you know what you're working with, is get tested. You need to get tested for SIBO. The only way to tell if you have SIBO is to get tested. Don't guess at this. Don't guess. Okay? So there's two different types of SIBO that you can have. You can have hydrogen dominant SIBO, and you can have methane dominant SIBO. And you can actually have both at the same time. Don't die on me now, phone. Jesus Murphy. We're almost there. Guys, I was doing so good. You know, my phone, every single freaking week, it never makes it through these lives. So you can have hydrogen dominant SIBO. You can have methane dominant SIBO. And you can test positive for both. You must test because the treatment for these types of SIBO are different. It's also really critical that you figure out what type you have, because you need to fix the reason why the bacteria came in the first place. Okay? And so the way that we go through this process of kicking out SIBO is we weed, then we replenish. We weed, then we replenish. We weed, and then we fix the reason it came in the first place. We kick the bad bacteria out. Again, we fix the reason why it came in the first place. And so you need to continue to repeat this process. And if you are guessing, then it's a very long journey of guessing the wrong way before course correcting to the right way. Okay? You're going to delay your healing journey by at least 2 months if you do that wrong. Okay? Now, here's the other thing. I want to just briefly touch on antibiotics, because everyone always asks me, well, my doctor says, don't worry about testing, just take the antibiotic. Don't do that. Guys, again, you need to know what type of SIBO you're working with. So whether you decide to treat with antibiotics or naturally, that's another discussion, okay? But you need to know what you're working with. The thing that you also need to understand, though, is the antibiotics, the most popular one that is recommended by your doctor is rifaximin, and or known as Xifaxan. And studies are showing us that there's only a 60% success rate. That's not too good. And the other thing is that there's a 90% reoccurrence rate. Wow, 90%. What that tells us, guys, is that it's going to come back, and it's going to come back worse than it was before. The reason that is because the antibiotic might help to get rid of some of the bacteria, but it doesn't fix the reason why it came in the first place. So if you're watching this and you're like, Alyssa, I know I have SIBO. I've been through this cycle with my doctor. I've been on 2-3 rounds of antibiotics over a year's period. If that is you, please reach out and ask for support, because we've got to get you a better way of getting rid of the SIBO. Okay? But here's the thing, guys. Again, you must test. And then whether you decide to do antibiotics or not, you still need a responsive gut repair system that fixes the reason why SIBO came in the first place. All right? So next week, we're going to be talking all about that. Next week, I'm going to be jumping back on. We're going to do a full training on knowing all of the underlying factors that cause SIBO to come in the first place, right? You need to know what you're working with. Otherwise, how the heck are you going to fix it? So come back next week. We're going to be going live at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as usual. And I'm going to dive into that topic, and we'll do round 2 of this SIBO discussion. If you guys, there we go, have any questions, please drop them in the comments below and we'll get you guys some support. Bye.